Now here's something you might not see every day. Freshman Democratic star AOC and Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz joining forces. Now here's how it happened. AOC announced she thinks members of Congress should be outright banned from becoming lobbyists after they leave office. Senator Cruz tweets he agrees. Okay. AOC responds, let's co-sponsor a bill. Let's do something about it. And Cruz responds, you're on. And this is Ted Cruz, the same guy who mocked AOC for noting airport croissants cost almost half as much as the hourly wage for so many people who work at airports, and also blasted AOC's own Green New Deal.
I support cows. I hope to see PETA supporting the Republican Party now that the Democrats want to kill all the cows.
And AOC, who is good with digital organizing, posts a video saying she'll do pretty much anything to get money out of politics, which includes working with Ted Cruz. She added, quote, pray for me. Today, AOC also shines a light on income inequality. She's spending the day bartending in Queens. This is the same job she held when she was running for Congress, and she's got that promise again to make this all come together in one story, which is getting money out.
They call it working class for a reason, because you are working non-stop. We're up against an opponent. He's taken $3 million per cycle from Wall Street, real estate, and pharmaceutical companies. We need to have the courage to stand up for working people and stand up against corporate interests.
So let's take a break from Trump and talk about this partnership with a partnership of our own. Libertarian Matt Welch, editor-at-large of Reason Magazine, and progressive Liz Plank, host of Vox's Consider It. Nice to have you both here.
Thanks for having us.
A lot of people see Twitter as an endless place of angry tirades and cliches, although there's plenty of good stuff that goes on as well. Walk us through AOC using what might have just been a little moment to actually force potential action.
Yeah, I think AOC working with Ted Cruz is kind of like Batman working with the Joker. And you might disagree on who Batman is in this analogy.
They're always Batman.
And I can let the people at home decide who they feel is Batman. But yeah, it's a very unlikely duo. It's very surprising. And it's very surprising because actually in the documentary, in the Netflix documentary you put in the beginning, you see that one of her first viral moments as a, sort of on the national stage was actually going after Ted Cruz in a tweet where he was going after net neutrality, using the word snowflakes. And she said, you're a sitting senator. Comcast paid you X amount of money to put out this tweet. Your records are public. We know how much money you're getting from these lobbyists. So it's really interesting to see them now work in concert together when at the beginning, their feud, I guess, or them feuding was such a point of, stardom for her. Yeah,
and Matt, I want to get you on both the politics and the substance. There's certainly a bipartisan or nonpartisan view that the abuse of the lobbying system, right, there's nothing liberal or conservative about it. To a lot of people, it's just rank corruption. But when it comes to Cruz, we wanted to have on a prominent supporter of Ted Cruz, and we just couldn't find one. And I say that not to be mean, but look at even in his own party, it's well known. I mean, we're going to show some Republicans, prominent Republicans, who've always had problems with him too. Take a look.
If you killed Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, nobody could convict you.
Lucifer in the flesh, I get along with almost everybody. But I've never worked with a more miserable son of
Everybody hates Ted. It's a very tough thing. They all hate him. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but they all hate him.
I mean, he stabbed his best friend in the Senate in the ribs, Mike Lee, on the criminal justice bill in 2016 at a very crucial moment. Completely surprised him. So yeah, he has this reputation that precedes him. I hate to be the guy to get in the middle of a perfectly nice and fun cross-partisan Twitter legislation.
You're a libertarian. You always
you have to ruin the party.
I'm not sure this passes constitutional muster. I mean, the Constitution enumerates the right to petition your government, whether you like the petitioners or not, whether they're paid or not. We don't like them. We don't like members of Congress. We found two classes of people that we despise. And a lot of American politics right now is like, okay, it's this group I don't like. Great. Let's punch them somehow. Right. So you're saying we live in a world where now people say,
the idea of lobbying is a dirty word on the left and the right, but you can be lobbying as an anti-war protester. You could be lobbying your government
Club, Planned
for
Parenthood,
anything.
whatever.
So you're actually concerned about the simplicity of this plan.
And also the AOC idea, and this is something that progressives, I think, have to learn every generation, is that when you have a big idea about telling businesses what to do or Americans what to do, that is regulation, right? This is Elizabeth Warren is the most enthusiastic and knowledgeable regulator running for president since Ralph Nader. So if she gets her way, or if the Green New Deal is passed, what is that going to do? That's not going to drive lobbyists out of business. That's going to drive lobbyists in business, because people are going to want to lobby to protect their interests against government.
We tried to have some fun here. We ended up in a paradox response.
Well, I think you're right, and a lot of people are even saying, it's too simplistic. It'll increase shadow lobbying, right? People will find other means of doing it. But I think it still reveals sort of the paradox of the AOC effect, that Republicans seem to hate her, but they kind of are in awe of her, and I think there's more Republicans than we think. I think there's a lot of covertly, I think there's a lot of action, more covertly happening in Washington, where Republicans want to work with her and want to be associated with her because she's popular.
Well, and briefly, don't a lot of Americans look at this through the lens of who's going to fight for them and not always the partisan polarization?
Yes, and that's what she does on social media, right? She doesn't use social media to talk about herself. She uses social media to listen, and not just to her constituents, but also now we're seeing to other
So lightning round, given that it started on Twitter, what emoji would you give for the likelihood of the success of this bill?
I don't think I can say it on television. It's the.
Well, then don't.
I won't. It's the not very nice emoji. It's the poop emoji.
I think
it's probably not.
I think we have to erase the 1 off the 100. Sadly, wouldn't be signed into law, and if it got that far, it wouldn't pass constitutional muster. But I agree, it is fun. And clearly game, respect game when it comes to social media on
Matt Welch with keeping it 100 and a game reference. Let's reflect on that.
We're on brand. Kind of. Right?
You're the one who invited us, Ari.
And I don't regret it. I don't regret it one bit. But I did want to let this moment sit. Thank you. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.